Homeless man attends wedding. Those present are stunned when he took the microphone. The wedding was a stunning affair, with white flowers and elegant decorations adorning the outdoor venue. The guests arrived in their finest attire, smiling and chatting as they made their way to their seats. The bride, Emily, had planned every detail to perfection, ensuring that her special day would be nothing short of magical. As the ceremony began, the guests stood up, eagerly anticipating the bride's arrival. The music started playing, and everyone turned to look towards the back of the aisle. Suddenly, a disheveled-looking man stumbled into the ceremony, his presence immediately noticeable as he disrupted the calm of the wedding. Hey there, ViralVids here. Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell. We post the most beautiful, amazing, and scary videos every single day. Let's proceed with the video. The man was uninvited, and his presence was unwelcome. His clothes were torn and dirty, and he reeked of alcohol. Emily's heart sank as she saw him stumble down the aisle, and she couldn't help but feel a sense of disappointment that her perfect day had been tainted by the uninvited guest. As the man took a seat at the back, the other guests tried to ignore him, hoping he would leave. But he didn't. He sat there, silently watching the ceremony, his eyes fixed on the happy couple standing at the front. Emily couldn't help but feel uneasy, wondering what this man was doing here and what he wanted. The ceremony continued, but Emily's mind was elsewhere. She couldn't focus on the beautiful words being spoken by the officiant, and she couldn't take her eyes off the uninvited guest. She wondered if he was going to cause a scene or if he had come to ruin her special day. As the ceremony drew to a close, Emily breathed a sigh of relief. The uninvited guest hadn't caused any trouble, and she hoped that he would leave quietly. But as the guests stood up and began to make their way to the reception, Emily's heart sank once more as the uninvited guest followed them. She didn't know what to do. She couldn't ask him to leave without causing a scene, and she couldn't ignore him without feeling uneasy. As the guests settled into their seats at the reception, Emily watched as the uninvited guest took a seat at the back. She hoped that he would stay there and not cause any trouble. But Emily was wrong. The uninvited guest had other plans. As the speeches began, the groom's best man was unable to attend, leaving the microphone open. Suddenly, the homeless man stood up and made his way to the stage. Emily's heart raced as she watched him take the microphone, wondering what he was going to say. To her surprise, the uninvited guest's words were full of wisdom and love. He spoke of hope and inspiration, of the power of love to change lives. Emily listened intently, unable to take her eyes off him. She was surprised by the emotion in his words and the sincerity in his voice. As the uninvited guest finished his speech, Emily found herself standing up, clapping along with the other guests. She didn't know what to make of this man, but she couldn't deny the impact his words had had on her. She felt a sense of awe and wonder, as if something magical had happened. The uninvited guest took a seat once more, and Emily couldn't help but wonder who he was and why he had come. She realized that sometimes the most unexpected guests can bring the most unexpected gifts. And as she continued to celebrate her special day, Emily knew that the uninvited guest had left a lasting impression on her and everyone else in attendance. As the reception continued, Emily couldn't shake the feeling of unease that the uninvited guest had left behind. She kept replaying his speech in her mind, wondering who he was and why he had come to her wedding. Her curiosity got the better of her, and she decided to approach him. As she made her way to the back of the venue, Emily could see the homeless man sitting alone, staring off into the distance. She approached him slowly, unsure of what to say, but before she could speak, he turned to her and smiled. "Your speech was beautiful," Emily said, her voice distant. "Thank you," the man replied, his voice deep and soothing. "I'm just glad I could be here to share it with you all." Emily felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She realized that she had been wrong about the uninvited guest. He wasn't a threat, but a kind-hearted man with a story to tell. She felt ashamed of her earlier judgments and wanted to make it right. "Can I get you something to eat or drink?" Emily asked, hoping to make him feel welcome. The man smiled again and nodded. Emily went to the bar and grabbed him a plate of food and a drink, then returned to his side. As they sat together, Emily learned more about the uninvited guest. His name was John, and he had been homeless for years, struggling to make ends meet. But despite his hardships, he remained positive and optimistic, always believing that things would get better. Emily listened intently, feeling a sense of compassion for this man she had once feared. She realized that everyone has a story, and that sometimes the most unlikely people can surprise you. As the night went on, Emily felt a bond growing between herself and John. They talked about everything from their childhoods to their hopes and dreams for the future. And as the night drew to a close, Emily realized that she had gained a friend in the most unexpected of places. As Emily said her goodbyes and prepared to leave the venue, John stopped her. "Can I ask you something?" he said, his voice serious. "Of course," Emily replied. "Do you believe in fate?" Emily paused, considering his question. "I don't know," she said. "Why do you ask?" John smiled again, a twinkle in his eye. "Because sometimes the most unexpected events can lead to the most wonderful outcomes, and I think tonight was one of those events." Emily felt a sense of wonder and amazement. She realized that John was right. Sometimes the most unexpected events can lead to the most powerful outcomes, and she was grateful for the unexpected guest who had taught her that lesson. As Emily left the wedding venue, she felt a sense of clarity she had never felt before. She had just made a new friend in the most unexpected of places, and it felt like fate had brought them together. She couldn't shake the feeling that John was meant to be in her life. Over the next few weeks, Emily and John kept in touch, talking on the phone and meeting up for coffee. She learned more about John's life and his struggles, and she was amazed by his resilience and optimism in the face of adversity. Despite his circumstances, he remained kind and positive, always looking for the good in people. One day, as they sat in a coffee shop, John looked at Emily with a serious expression. "I have a proposition for you," he said. Emily raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What is it?" "I want to start a charity for the homeless," John said. "I've been thinking about it for a while, and I think we could really make a difference." Emily felt a surge of excitement. She had always wanted to do something to help those less fortunate, and she knew that John's passion and dedication could make a real impact. "I'm in," Emily said, without hesitation. Over the next few months, Emily and John worked tirelessly to start their charity. They reached out to local businesses and organizations, organizing fundraisers and awareness events. Slowly but surely, they began to build a network of support and resources. As their charity began to grow, so did Emily and John's friendship. They spent countless hours working together, laughing and dreaming about what their charity could accomplish. Emily felt grateful to have found such a kind and inspiring person in John. But as the charity began to take off, Emily noticed a change in John. He seemed more tired and withdrawn, and she could tell that he was struggling to keep up with the demands of running a nonprofit organization. One day, as they sat in their office, Emily took a deep breath and spoke up. "John, are you okay?" she asked, her voice gentle. John looked up at her, his eyes sad. "I'm just tired," he said. "Running this charity is hard work." Emily nodded understandingly. "Why don't you take a break? You deserve it." John looked at her, surprised. "But what about the charity? It needs me." Emily smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "It'll still be here when you get back. We can handle it together." John looked at her, his eyes softening. "Thank you," he said, his voice full of gratitude. Over the next few weeks, John took a much-needed break. He traveled, read books, and spent time with family and friends, and when he returned to the charity, he was refreshed and re-energized. Together, Emily and John continued to build their charity, inspiring others to join their cause, and as they looked out at the community they had created, they knew that their unlikely friendship had led to something truly beautiful. As Emily and John's charity continued to grow, they began to see the impact of their work and the lives of those they served. They provided food and shelter to those in need, and they worked to connect people with the resources they needed to get back on their feet. But as they worked, they began to realize that their charity was just the beginning. They saw the need for a larger community effort to address the root causes of homelessness, and they knew that they needed to mobilize their community to make a change. Emily and John began reaching out to local organizations, churches, businesses, encouraging them to get involved in the fight against homelessness. They organized town hall meetings and community forums, inviting people to come together to discuss solutions. Slowly but surely, their efforts began to pay off. People from all walks of life began to get involved. donating time, money, and resources to help their cause. They organized rallies and marches, raising awareness about the issue and demanding change from their local government. And as the community united around their cause, Emily and John saw the impact of their work firsthand. They saw families reunited, individuals finding jobs and homes, and children attending school with full stomachs and warm clothes. One day, as they sat in their office, Emily looked at John with tears in her eyes. "I can't believe how far we've come," she said, her voice full of emotion. John smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "And we're just getting started." As the years passed, their charity continued to grow, and the community they had built became stronger than ever. They had inspired a movement, and they knew that their work would continue to make a difference for generations to come. And as they looked back on their journey, Emily and John knew that they owed it all to their chance encounter at a wedding years ago. They had come from two very different worlds, but they had found common ground in their passion to help others. As they stood on stage at a fundraiser for their charity, Emily and John looked out at the sea of faces in the audience. They saw the faces of those they had helped, and they saw the faces of those who had joined their cause. And in that moment, they knew that they had created something truly beautiful, a community united in their mission to make the world a better place. What do you think about this story? Share your thoughts in the comments section. Thank you for watching. See you next time.